Kingdom Under Fire. If you were to ask what are some prime examples of wasted potential in gaming, this series would have to be on near the top of the list. This has to be one of the most underrated but cursed series of games, never quite knowing who they are or what they have. Not since Red Faction have I seen a more schizophrenic identity crisis in a series. What started as a Warcraft clone RTS, to its peak as an action hack-and-slash RTS hybrid, to a Dynasty Warriors clone with no RTS elements at all, to a doomed MMO with bullshit free-to-play mechanics without being free-to-play, to a NFT asset flip? We will ignore that last one. This is easily one of my favorite games of all time, and I can't resist replaying it and its expansion often. It ticks all of my boxes. Medieval fantasy with orcs, humans, magic, real-time strategy elements as well as RPG and hack-and-slash gameplay, and to top it off, a pretty awesome heavy metal soundtrack to boot. This game came out of nowhere in my life. My mum was in a Blockbuster Video looking for a game to rent for her small, impressionable dingus of a son. Sees a cool knight guy with a sword on the cover, and boom, my life was forever altered. I had never seen anything like this. It felt like Dynasty Warriors, but your units actually mattered. You spent more time maneuvering and positioning your troops as opposed to just twirling around and racking up 600 kill combos. If you got into a fight without your men, you would lose. That's why I didn't stick with games like Dynasty Warriors or Hyrule Warriors. While it is fun to just wipe out swaths of trash NPCs, it really loses its appeal quickly. For the most part in those games, you can completely ignore the units altogether and just run to the end and kill the officers. Sometimes they legit do zero damage anyway. I remember 99 Nights. I left on a battle for over an hour while I did some dishes and chores, and my NPC soldiers didn't kill a single enemy unit. What I didn't expect as a young buffoon was how hard this game was. And I mean hard. Even if you knew exactly what you're doing, things can go tits up super quick. I have always been a fan of NPC allies in games. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I feel like I'm a part of a team or something greater than myself. And it is always fun to have an NPC come in and save your bacon or do a clutch move to save the day. And I just say to myself, hell yeah, little buddy, you did it! My heart always hurts when my Marines die in Halo, and I always celebrate with my EDF troopers who sing alongside you as you blast ants to another dimension. Elder Scrolls and Fable, I always made sure to level up my heals or play a summoner, bringing my hordes to the battle. Helping town guards fight off dragons, and giving my Marines all the best guns in Halo. Pikmin and Overlord are also badass games with similar aspects, and Mount and Blade is probably the most prevalent modern example. Kingdom Under Fire is lost though. Not many other games of this style exist. Conqueror's Blade scratches the itch a little, but that is another dime a dozen Asian MMO with horrid pay mechanics and imbalancing. See, I like being part of the team, not the team itself. I like when the hero is not super overpowered, flailing about the battlefield, nuking 1,000 enemies at once. Sometimes it's fun. I love the cinematic Lord of the Rings battles with soldiers all around. Spartan Total Warrior and Viking Battle for Asgard were favorites of mine too. Imagine Warhammer Fantasy and a Kingdom Under Fire engine. I will say in summation that no game in my world deserves a remake, remaster, or a proper sequel like Kingdom Under Fire does. I would Dragon's Den the fuck out of a sequel. I'll donate my left nut for a say in a sequel, or even if I'm the only one who plays it. Even if it's just a Lord of the Rings or Warhammer game in the same style, just bloody take it away from whoever's in charge now. Stop killing my boy! And take my money. So what are we doing here? Hi, I'm Admiral Iddy, and I'm going to answer the question, can you beat Kingdom Under Fire Crusaders, the Forces of Good, Deathless? How does this game work then? Well, you choose one of 4 heroes, 2 good and 2 naked, and move across the continent of Bersia, fighting and leveling up your army, completing various objectives, all leading to a penultimate fight with ultimate evil. The difference between most games here is, you don't control your hero alone. You actually control them and their attached squad of infantry, moving them as a group. When you meet with an enemy, your camera zooms in and you enter action mode, where you get direct control of your hero and you can do combos, perform abilities, and call on your 2 officers to give you a hand. If your hero is defeated in combat, flick the stick to revive them. But if all your men die, it's game over. I love this. You are here together. You and your unit are one. You watch their backs, and they watch yours. Your unit is represented by these health bars. Green is healthy, red is damaged soldiers, and black means a soldier has died. You cannot revive them mid-mission. But if you win, they come back after the battle. So my goal today, complete the entire campaign for Gerald and Kendal without a single man dying. Ever. This health bar will never show black. What have I got myself into? Let's start with Gerald, the main mascot for the game. This campaign is quite linear and scripted. You do not get as much open customization as you will with Kendal or Rainier. It also means his campaign will be a little bit easier. The key is getting heals as soon as you can. With humans, it means training wholly on your units, whereas Dark Elves all have a heal over time by default. Gerald gets such a poor trickle of XP early on, and you get such specific units at specific times, it makes the early game the hardest part of all 4 campaigns. Level 1, Greyhampton. Tutorial mission. You learn the basics of movement and combat here, and you get to see a unit while in your tech tree is actually unattainable until the final level as Kendal or with mods. You witness the massacre of a human village by Dark Legion forces, which triggers their holy war. Secretly, this was a false flag operation by other humans to frame the Dark Legion. The story in this game is actually quite compelling at times. The voice acting is... Translations are funny too. Fight your first enemy, the Dark Elf Fighters. I'm not sure what it is about Asian games and their portrayal of women, but come on. Listen, here. I like TNA just as much as the next guy, especially purple TNA. But this is not feasible medieval combat garb. Go where you are supposed to and kill the elves. Biggest new player trap here. You cannot kill flag bearers, so just let them run around. I remember my first time playing, I chased this little bitch for like 15 minutes thinking it was the last unit. Level 2, Raven Meadow. This is the hardest mission in the whole campaign. No joke, it is a straight battle of attrition. You are expected to fight multiple phases of enemy forces with only one allied heal after the first fight. You get archers here, and if you have seen my tier list video, shameless plug, you will learn that these are the best unit class in the whole game, only beaten by the upgrade of longbowmen. There's also a mechanic here that is really important for brevity. Leaders. In most enemy units, there will be a leader. Often this model will look a little different or be riding a horse. Sometimes, however, they are identical to the rest and you won't know until you smack a unit and a red health bar appears. If you kill the leader, the rest of the unit shatters and flees, counting as almost an instant kill. But with leaders comes leader abilities. These vary from character to character, but if they get the ability off, it will almost guarantee a death. You can, however, interrupt their abilities after they flash red, gives them away in mid-combat. Start by killing off the infantry in the cinematic start. Once that is done, let your allied paladins heal you. This is the last time these dicks do anything helpful, but they will follow you around after. Move to the next objective and wait until the archers appear. Rescue these guys ASAP. They are absolute game changers for the future. Roserain shows up here and chats with you a bit. You can't kill him until he shuts up, so just try and stay alive and focus him down. Also, pro tip, always, and I mean always, go for archers first. They are some of the only units that do consistent damage per volley. They cannot miss like artillery, and they cannot be blocked other than with shields, and they will be your primary healers and casters. Move on to the next stage, killing the enemies and save the catapults. I elect to leave my infantry out of this fight. I am low enough health as it is, and I don't want to lose anyone to a sneaky hit. Let your archers peck away at them. Also, this game has no checkpoints, and some of these missions are long. So if you lose a unit in the last fight, you have to do the whole mission over again. There is some strategy to archers here. They do half damage when blocked by trees, on low ground, or when facing the sun, but do double on the opposite side. Siege is surprisingly resilient to melee since there are some hitbox issues and the crew usually gets stuck inside of their kit. Once the catapults blow open the wall, go inside and let the enemy run away. My allies managed to catch some on the escape, so just shoot them with your archers for extra kills. Kills do not really matter at this stage of the game since your XP gain is so low you will barely be able to level up. Mission done. Level 3, Greywood. This is where I should probably explain the barracks. When the yapping starts, you can go to the pub or the barracks. Pub is where you can hire officers. You won't be able to for a while with Gerald, so it's usually just story here. Units have jobs. They can change their jobs as long as they have the required skills. Units can change freely whenever they want, which is handy if the mission you are on needs a specialist. You can also buy gear here to enhance their skills and resistances, and the cool part is your units change their appearance based on what you buy. Level max for gear is 30, so I usually elect to wait until you are around that level to spend your very finite and precious amount of gold on gear, other than your hero's main weapon. You can buy weapons that have elemental effects, so any level of weapon with an element is handy to have. When it comes to humans, you should always go for cold or poison. Orcs and ghouls are weak to cold magic, and dark elves to poison, so you can't go wrong with either. Also, you should definitely give your archers holy. At least 1 point gives them curatio, which is the most important spell in the game. This is what will keep my brave boys from dying. You meet Walden here, a little wiener guy that is jealous of your haircut and joins you on the next mission to capture a dark elf commander, who they consistently refer to as a man, but damn, that ass. This is a spearman and formation tutorial. Move to the east and let Walden kill the charging cavalry. This is the only time for the rest of Gerald's campaign you will have to deal with cavalry. Walden leaves after this mission, so do not worry about him. After the cavalry go down, move south and ignore the orders and just butt rush the enemy archers. Once they are dead, move on to the southwest. Open formation, your units run faster but get wrecked by archers. Close formation, slowly but are highly resistant to arrows and are more stealthy. We will get to this later. Corner their leader and kill him. Level 4, Glaucus. Walden is gone and so are her spearmen. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. This is a sapper and sunshine mission. We need to lure Rainier to the riverbed and open a dam to flood them. I almost had enough experience to get longbows, but archers will suffice. You learn about the sun in this mission. The sun behind your backs doubles your arrow damage, and half if you face them. Hugh is like your adoptive father here, and his actor is so fucking bored, it's quite sad. Kill the orcs and move to gather your sappers. Sappers are extremely situational. They can set traps and remove traps. Again, this will be the only mission you will need to remove traps on. Traps can be handy, but require micro, and usually their unit slot would be better suited for any other unit. They do have teamwork though, and as such, you can change their jobs to catapults or ballistas, which are infinitely better units. Open the dam when prompted, and then go rescue Hugh. Be careful of Lucretia here, the character you will play as in the Dark Elf camp. This is another wait for the dialogue to stop, and the game does this pain in the ass thing where when something important happens, it actually takes the camera away from you, but the combat continues, which could result in a death. Listen to the drag, and she randomly runs off, thankfully. Kill the rest of the orcs and bail. Also, this is the last time the sun is going to be a factor in almost the entire rest of the game, besides the Lucretia mirror mission. This is a badass mission, both story and tricks-wise. You have to engage Rainier here finally, but it's a ruse. You will feign retreat and set fire to the woods, burning Rainier and his orcs. Rainier is a hunk Zilla, and this sumbitch smashes. The enemy is immortal here. Run your archers to the objective spot to initiate the retreat. Move Jerry to the designated spot and set fire to the woods with your longbows. This is one of my favorite animations in the game. It really went the extra mile in certain areas. Watching your dudes line up and light their arrows and firing them to distance always looks cool. Now this is where things get interesting. See, the king is present here, and you need to get him to safety. You will hold Rainier while you make your escape. You are then expected to stealth through the woods and set them on fire to scare away the orcs between you and the exit. This game often attempts to promote stealth, but this mechanic is so inconsistent and broken. Doing a tight formation is supposed to lower your profile, but you're also stomping around with 30 men in bright metal armor. You are better off just brute forcing your way through any of the stealth missions. You will get more experience that way too. So the logical thing would be to leave Hugh to his fate and escape with the king. Just as the game expects it. But what the game did not expect for you to do is stay and fight. You see, Rainier is immortal, but his orcs are not. If you remember, when your units die, your hero dies. Now, Rainier is level 50, which is fucking crazy, but Hugh is also immortal. He will stay and fight Rainier forever. This works like this because they can't allow Rainier to chase you after he kills Hugh, and if you're taking too long doing the stealth. Take your bows out of the trees and begin firing on Rainier. Stay engaged with Jerry. It will take you a long, long, Long time to kill even one orc, but trust me, it's worth it. Rainier can smash your shit real quick, so feel free to retreat and stand by while you heal. I elected to chill out and wait for some of his orcs to die. Obviously, when there are less models per unit, they do less damage. Once he gets around half health, I decide to get Jerry back in the fray. When Rainier dies, you get credit. Since she is such a high level, your units will get the maximum experience possible. While we have been getting experience in the single or double digits, this mission tops off at 14,000, 7k each unit. This puts you way ahead of where you should be, and you can get to level 30 with 2 units of your choosing here, which means you will be extremely over-leveled for the rest of the campaign. Fuck your way through the rest of the orcs, it won't matter because you already have max XP, and lead the king to freedom. Level 6. Roserain. The orcs are giving chase, but we have intel that they are moving a supply caravan through the area and we need to set up an ambush. You have no choice with what you bring to this mission, so level up Jerbear, buy him some sick gear, preferably with a chili blade, get going. This is a cavalry tutorial. Cavalry are extremely useful units, second only to archers. These guys can run through infantry units unfazed or unharassed, other than axemen or spearmen, and are perfect for getting you SP mana, which also means gold. You get gold for every SP earned. They are also ideal for tying down enemy archers or siege units. They basically do everything that infantry do, but infinitely better in every way. They even last a while in melee. You can't go wrong bringing cavalry to a fight, and the enemy rarely has anti-cavalry. Ignore the objective and just brute force. You can easily brute force infantry-only forces, especially with cav. Once the main force is gone, start setting up traps on the spots. When the enemy turns up, they should all die before they even get to you. Strangely, your sappers have holy here, so they can cast heals. Make sure the scorpions die. Scorpions, we will get to these dickheads later, but suffice it to say, they are insta-kill machines with seemingly random damage counters. Clean up the remainder and return to Essa. Level 7, Halmoral. We return to town to realize it was a diversion. Walden is dead and the king has fled, so we need to do so as well. This was a mission that stonewalled me as a kid, seemingly impossible. You need to cross a river, but while units are in water, they take like 1,000,000% more damage, and it can almost be wiped out by a single volley of the enemy archers guarding the bank. Kill the enemies on this side and move to the very far north. From there, longbows can just barely hit the enemy, so shoot or light some fires. The fires will push the enemy archers down along the bank, giving you enough room to safely cross. From here, you can go straight to the exit, or you can finish off the enemy archers. The enemy won't move while you fire on them helplessly. Once there are only a couple left, send in your cavalry and infantry and clean them up. The best mission fucking ever. A stealth escort. Who asked for this? Who wants this? Who designed this? Another crushing mission as a kid. But it's a piece of piss if you are the picture of manlyhood that I am. There are immortal enemies here with invisible walls ahead, so go through the woods and stealth through, which means just fucking smash your way through. These enemy units are smaller than usual and they all have leaders, often ogres, so focus them and prevent them from using their abilities. Crush the scorpions in the north. They are only vulnerable through the head and their movements are super erratic, and your hero sometimes takes the wheel from you and walks endlessly into the scorpion's tits. Be careful of the dark elves on the exit though. They cast meteors which can nuke your units. Luckily, Rupert are paladins, so you can use him to stand by and cast heals. Level 9, Wall Defense. This, when I was a kid, was the hardest mission of the campaign. A wall defense mission, with seemingly endless hordes of undead and scorpion. Rupert has gone to get reinforcements, and we need to survive until he gets back. What is cool about this mission is that while you are supposed to lose, you can actually win before Rupert gets there. Not only did I want to do this deathless, I also wanted to beat it before Rupert arrives. This is the only mission I don't bring archers. Scorpions are immune to arrows and ghouls are resistant. But the ghouls do follow the Final Fantasy rule of undead. Healing spells damage them. Constantly keeping your units topped off with a mandatory paladin unit also damages the enemy, especially Blessed Healing. I usually go mortars in this mission. They do bonus damage to undead and scorpions and are decently mobile with massive range. However, I decided to go catapults. I use them to splash the undead and to snipe scorpions. They can usually one-shot them. If you park Jerry near the border of the map, you can aggro almost all the ghouls as they come. Since Jerry is so leveled, he shouldn't have to worry too much about damage. Snipe the liches and end the ghouls. And if you hired a paladin officer, you can cast heals mid-combat. Oh, and if you press 2 buttons together, you can call upon your officers to use an ability, but they're often not worth it and use up precious mana that are better used for heals. Hold out against the waves until the large scorpion wave appears. Use the catapults to snipe them before they get a chance to damage the walls, and bam! You get bonus XP and a cool alternative cutscene where Rupert shows up and doesn't know what to make of it. I wish games did this more, rewarding you for thinking outside of the box. Level 10, Prosperous Green. What is weird here is the dwarves and elves were supposed to be in another area of the world, but you could already hire their officers. Dwarves are good for mortars and catapults because they can buy special gear that buffs range and gunpowder. Also, there's a class of unit called Support. They are usually aircraft and don't waste your time or experience. They're more a liability than they are useful, and they get absolutely wrecked by enemy range too, and it's super hard to micro them in and out of a bad situation. This mission is a free win. You are tasked with burning orc villages who have tried to settle the area. Watch Jerbear get kinda racist and clean up the random scorpion and orc units. What I actually forget all the time is that catapults have a fire pot attack with its own animation, which is pretty neat. And it counts as burning the villages too. Not much to say here. Kill the enemy, burn down the towns, and proceed to the exit. The hardest part about this mission is finding all of the little villages. But they're the same places every time you play, so if you have a map, you'll do alright. The Grand Finale. This is the penultimate level where you finally get revenge on Renier for Hugh's death. The Ecclesian Pope has declared a crusade, and you are at the spear. After a lame vocal performance and a badass shot with a musical sting, it's go time. Simple. Destroy the enemy. You have lots of allies in this level, so I aim to help them as best as I can. Go for the archers first. I split down 3 lanes. Clean up and slowly move the catapults northeast. They will be useful there later. After you kill enough enemies, the enemy super unit spawns. The Swamp Mammoth. These are the Dark Legion's Uber Siege unit, immune to almost all forms of damage besides siege and magic. Apparently vulnerable to your hero in melee, but you won't survive long enough to test it. He does massive range damage and even damages units with his footsteps. This game tells you to go activate allied ballistas to the south, but we don't need them. We have our own siege. Use the catapults to fire on the mammoth while your allies soak up the damage. Their sacrifice will allow my Deathless run to continue. After the mammoth dies, an allied unit will spawn and prompt you. We need to rescue them, and another wave of enemies spawns. Wipe the floor with them. With most of my allies still alive, they actually dummy the enemy squads with me. Touch the objective unit, and a scared soldier tells you about the Dark Lord. Now we have to move to the bottom right of the map. The mission is essentially over here. The final battle with Renier is just a dialogue exchange, and we see a very shitty cutscene of Rupert getting falcon punched by Reggie. An awkward-ass cutscene ensues, and we see the hint of the horror that is to come in the hard camp. Boom. So, you can absolutely beat Kingdom Under Fire Gerald Deathless. Now for something a little harder. Kendal. After beating Lucretia, we get the real meat of this game, the hard campaigns. Starting with Kendal. Kendal is a knight from Ecclesia, the religious nation of the Human Alliance. He plays parallel and following Gerald's timeline. He plays different to Jerry in that he has 2 weapons, a small quick mace and a long warhammer. He looks badass, but is actually a little shitty to control. He is slower and more clunky, but does have some pretty wide hammer swings. I personally prefer Jerbear. He also has 2 new officers, Dwayne, who sucks, and Thomas, who is a 10-year-old scorpion killer. Kendal's campaign, while harder, also has total freedom from the get-go. You can change officers freely, hire dwarves and elves off the cuff. If you have the XP, you can field any troop you want. Level 1, Greyhampton. This first mission starts off strong. You and a massive reclamation army are cleaning up orcs that are around the village that started the whole war to begin with. The fact that it's still under fire, though, no pun intended, and in the rain, that's a bit odd, especially 17 days into the war. Under orders from the Pope, you are to claim the Ancient Heart. this world's version of the One Ring. Thankfully, you have a healer infantry here and archers off the bat. Focus the enemy archers while your allies engage everything else. I try to kill scorpions because the AI are not good at engaging them. Since they only take damage at the head, the allies kind of just swing away hopelessly. Thomas's officer ability is the only one I use because he has homing fireballs and scorpions take double damage from fire. The problem is SP. It's really hard to get enough SP to snipe these scorpions. Since scorps are single entity units, all the fireballs usually go to the single target and nuke them. However, scorpions seemingly have RNG damage counters. Sometimes they click and stab with their tail and they do either 0 damage or all of the damage to a single unit. I had to reset dozens of times because a scorpion would just poke Carl to death. Try and keep up with the heals if you can. Heal some of your allies if they are grouped up. They will be doing most of the work. Try and snipe all the scorpions you can and they will deal with everything else. Be careful of the ghouls here. They cheat in that they can have other elemental magic, whereas when you play them, you cannot. Their leader abilities are vines and lightning, and they can nuke your units, and Carl is usually the first to die. Level 2, the Holy Ground. You actually get to choose between 2 missions here, which makes things interesting. I opted for the Holy Ground first. These 2 missions are fucking nightmares because of the scorpions you will face. I tried multiple loadouts here with the precious few experience you get from the first mission. First thing you should do is kick Dwayne out and replace him with Otho, the paladin leader from your infantry. He will allow you to heal mid-combat, which the game normally doesn't expect you to do. Cavalry can be the pivotal unit in this run, but I opted to leave them out for most of the missions. They don't really work in a few missions because the enemy has a lot of air and sometimes axemen, which both hard counter cavalry. I elected to finally use all archers and a catapult here for the Scorpion. The enemy has air units too. They're absolutely cracked. It's a trap. Enemy air and scorpions seem so effective when you fight them, it makes you want to use them for the Dark Legion. But, the thing is, they fucking suck when you use them. The enemy must have boosted stats or something because they are always ass when I use them. You get 2 allied infantry here. I elect to help the southern front. With 2 archers and a siege unit, they actually rinse the infantry blob that shows up, and can usually snipe the wyverns effectively. The only problem is the goddamn piss fucking scorpions, which continue to shockwave our dudes and inconsistently one-shotting Carl. The catapult is actually the VIP. I beat this mission on stream using only archers, and my allies actually managed to mop up the remaining scorpions, but having a catapult actually crushes the scorpions, well out of range, and the mission actually goes way better. Mission 3, Colonock. Now, this is the pain in the ass mission. It has a fuckload of scorpions and cavalry. You still have pretty average level troops, and you can't bring more than 2 units. On stream, I tried for ages with mortars to help with mobility, either archers or spearmen to deal with the cavalry. The enemy attacks in multiple waves with randomized spawns. Sometimes the enemy cavalry spawns behind you, sometimes they aggro towards you, sometimes the scorpions just chill out and smoke the grass. Upon re-recording for this video, I decided to give ballistas a shot. Ballistas have the longest range in the game. They behave very similar to catapults, but their splash is in a line instead of a circle. They are anti-large entity specialists, so with all the scorpions and mammoths you will face in this campaign, I decided to give them a go. Their only negative is their AI. Catapults are fairly dumb and get stuck easy, but ballistas require much more babysitting. They sometimes forget to turn their gear, so you will be targeting enemy on their flanks, but the ballistas will continue shooting straight or at an angle. A simple move command will usually straighten them. Strangely, the immobility of the siege equipment didn't affect me too much, and the ballistas proved their worth by sniping those dirty scorpions before they could taste sweet, sweet Carl juice. The spearmen I used for the cavalry waves. Not having range support didn't really matter since the ghouls are resistant to arrows and scorpions are immune. Sometimes with enemy cavalry, you get lucky and their AI breaks and stays in melee, but this mission, they are pretty persistent. Eventually, whether it was chance or skill, I somehow pulled it off, with more gray hairs than I started with. Level 4, Nymphbarren. This is a bit of a grindier mission. Fairly straightforward, but a long slog with no checkpoints. You are tasked with taking 5 high ground points for the crusade. Different stages of enemy defenders block your path. The first stage is easy. You get 2 allies and you can bring whatever you want. Plow through the enemy infantry until the ghouls start spawning. They will infinitely spawn until you defeat a lich in the north, and trust me, they are infinite. If you wanted to risk it, you can farm them as long as you want, but they don't give a lot of experience. Crush some dead and move on to the lich when you are ready. Be careful though, he has lightning and periodically casts lightning on your knights, and humans wear metal armor which makes him extra weak to lightning. Once he is dead, next point open. Move to the south and shoot the enemy on the high ground with your forces. You can safely volley them. When you are ready, engage with Kendal, but be careful, the enemy here casts lightning. Dodge the magic and mop up. From here, more allies spawn and a big wave of Dark Elves. The allies have issues on this map. Their pathfinding can sometimes get them stuck in awkward places and you might not be able to help as much as they should. The enemy brings out some roided up wyverns. Keep up with the heals and mop up. The last enemy unit is a random axeman squad who casts Meteor. Finish him off and get ready for a tricky one. Lots of kills here, but in the recording, their last archer unit somehow got a kill, and this is a prime example of how random and vague the damage values are. 6 volleys with little to no damage, and boom, out of nowhere, fucking Carl takes one to the eye. God damn it, Carl. Level 5, Woodenshade. It's a trap! Or rather, there are traps. That means sappers. Well, fuck that. There is not enough traps to warrant wasting a unit slot on sappers. Use scouts and see where they are and walk through, or keep up your heals while your dudes just get blown up. Another infinite ghoul spam until you kill the lich. So get to it and kill the lich. He might be close to traps though, so be careful. Once he goes down, you need to move westward and find the rest of the enemy. A bunch of Dark Elf archers and wyverns turn up. Stick to the trees. Air units other than bombers cannot fight in forests, so will fly idle. While idle, archers wreck them. Since they aren't moving, the archers don't need to take time to lead their shots. York sappers show up here randomly, but pose no threat. And the first and only example of ogre infantry, simply labeled O infantry. The game uses the ogre officer models as units. Very neat, but it's never done so again, strangely. Still weak to cold, just hit their butts. What is it with these fantasy games and ogre ass? Once they're all dead, the end triggers. Level 7. This is peak Kingdom Under Fire, when the game is at its best. Big map, loads of allies and enemies of all varieties, and free reign to bring whatever you want. This is a fun mission. You need to destroy a wall to get a shortcut to Ecclesia. Your allies bring a shit ton of mortars here, and I actually wonder if they can win without you. Enemy waves periodically spawn in after clearing out different zones, but they are mostly ghouls and infantry. Try and clean up the enemy archers to allow your buddies to get into position. You are welcome to attack the wall yourself as well. Doing so spawns in more enemy defenders. Kill all the enemies on your side of the wall and fire away with your boys, and clean up the rest. Once the walls are down and the enemies are dead, the ending procs. This is another surprisingly tricky mission. Lots of air units, some asshole cavalry show up to cause a ruckus, and lots of enemy archers. I tried for ages with different combinations of spearmen, artillery, and such, but settled eventually on just bringing 2 archer squads. Using them, I clear the skies and use them to shoot down the cavalry that runs amok. Cavalry spawns after you kill the first infantry unit with Kendal. I think it might be kill triggered. Kind of funny how simple archers are better anti-cavalry units than the counter-cavalry units themselves. When the wyverns are gone, your allied storm riders go nuts and tear away at some of the enemies as long as you keep their archers occupied. Eventually, the King of Dicks shows up. Scorpions, of course. Risk Thomas or hope your allies can finish them off. Once they go down, take a break and head to Essex to level up and go on to the next mission. Level 8, Essex Forest. This mission is trickier than it looks. There are 3 lanes, so to speak. Clearing the first one spawns in a second wave and then a third, so plan accordingly. Try and keep your allies alive as best you can. They will be doing a great job of holding down enemy archers in this one. Strangely, this is the only mission in the game where enemy archers' AI actually micros away from your melee. But that's all they know how to do. They will run all the way to the very corner of the map until they cannot run anymore, and your allies will chase them the entire time. A bunch of ghouls spawn in sporadically in this level, so just keep your butts tight and keep the heals up. Kind of a free win. Level 9, Brimstone Forest. Another big ol' free battle. A lot like Osmond actually, with a big combined arms fight with air, ground, magic, and cavalry. Charge the exposed archers right away, and eventually a large blob of enemies turn up. They actually flank you well here and tie down some of my ranged units. I like to bring 3 of the big daddies: longbows, mortars, and catapults. Once a bunch of shit dies, the enemy cavalry turns up. The annoying thing about Cav is not only do they run freely through most units, but they also confuse their AI. Your archers will put their bows away and pull out their swords, wasting precious time, and your infantry will often try to reform to face them head on, ignoring the woods. Once the cavalry are dead, just clean up and kill everything else. Another free mission for the most part. Got a little dicey in places, but if you know what you're doing, easy game. Level 10, Bronzewood. This is a make or break mission. First time playthrough, this can be the mission to completely brick your campaign and force a restart. You face a swamp mammoth here. While your allies do have mortars that spawn in, the enemy have absolutely beefed up wyverns and a shitload of archers with a major blizzard boner. Even when fully prepared, I don't think I've ever seen my allies beat mammoth, and the longer that thing is alive, the worse off you are. I try to kill it myself before it has any time to do any damage, because even one volley can kill any infantry squad at times, so I target it right away with my ballista. This is the exact purpose of the ballista, to counter this big asshole. While the ballista fires, I elect to start fighting the enemy north and sweep downwards, freeing up my allies to tie down other bad guys. You actually start on the high ground here too, which gives your archers a good advantage. The wyverns typically rush you right away, but I got lucky on this mission and they went elsewhere. Once the infantry are dead, get ready because winter is coming. The archers here spam Blizzard, and it is a tick damage spell that stuns your units. It sucks to get caught in. I managed to get through without dealing with too many blizzards, saving my allies in the north, and killing the mammoth that quickly freed them up to distract the boot chicks. Strangely, wyverns do damage when their bodies fall to the ground with a bit of splash, so keep an eye on turrets from the sky. Clean up the enemy, and finally you are back in the capital city. 11. Bronzewood. 2. Electric Boogaloo. Blink and you will miss this mission. After the Pope loses his shit and claims Walter, a character from the second game, has betrayed God and stolen the ancient heart, you are off to chase him down. Later. If you go south instead, there's a completely optional mission for you to get some experience, and it is quick and dirty. This is a massive fight. Bring all the artillery you can. Engage the first enemy squad, and dozens of enemy units just dogpile on. Keep healing, try and snipe the scorpions, and just survive. You might not get too much of a chance to control Kendal himself because you will be healing so much, but there's not much strategy to this mission. Engage and survive. The mission ends after everything is dead. You get a good boon of XP and gold to finish off kitting your guys out. On to the endgame. Level 12, Norwart. This is a two-parter, but don't know that. We need to get to Walter at the altar, where he plans to destroy the ancient heart. Plow through the Dark Legion forces, sniping scorpions with mortars and helping your allies. Once you reach the altar, an in-game cutscene will trigger another immortal chat fight, so just let these guys talk it out before... Okay, so this is where Kendal's campaign goes off the goddamn rails. Apparently, destroying the ancient heart summoned this game's version of Satan, Enkablosa, a giant demonic flying monster that spawns infinite sources of weird double-faced legless demons. These guys are fucked, and will be the only enemy from now on. Get the hell out of here, get all of your units to the exit, and finish the mission. Your men will constantly get stuck in fights, which is why I elected not to bring siege weapons, so just spam the retreat command and leave. Also, I didn't re-record these missions because the Twitch stream went very well and I really didn't feel like doing these missions again on my own time, so you might see my face pop in. Just run for your life and get to the exit. You'll get the experience from the first part of this mission, but I won't actually tell you. 13. Ecclesia Wall. Another wall defense. I remember this mission being just so hard when I was a kid, but with all the min-maxing I've been doing with my units, I am actually well prepared. Despite what you might think, the enemy is not infinite. You have to survive for a ludicrous amount of time, keeping the wall, represented by these units here, alive the whole time. Enka flyers are like dirigibles, single entity bombers, but they go down quickly to your archers. I think cavalry is really good here, but I go all archers, keeping up with the heals and catching any sneaky flankers, and I actually almost managed to kill all the enemies and trigger the alternate dialogue. Once the sun comes up, the enemy bails and on. Level 14, Jungsburg. Like the Lothar mission in my Warcraft 2 Deathless run, this was the mission I was dreading. You have one objective, and it's simple. Go from the top of the map to the bottom. The catch? The enemy spawns a massive force of over-leveled demons to wear you down and kill you. To get to the exit is a mad dash of survival where your units will barely survive. If you are a normal person. One of my viewers told me he managed to kill all the enemies on this map, and I hadn't even fathomed trying to kill anything on this level. I always assumed, like the level wants you to, that this was an infinite and impossible. But I'm here to tell you, it's not. First thing you will notice is the enemy doesn't spawn in right away. They actually spawn in distance triggers, so if your units cross an invisible line, the boys pop in. This mission starts with 2 Enkas on your flanks and 3 chilling down by the exit. 2 flankers always charge you right away. You can stay on this axis and engage them alone. They will eat your health fast, so keep healing. This will be a challenge, the only challenge. Getting enough SP to keep healing. I was putting my micro skills to the max, swapping to Kendal to strike for SP and swapping to archers to heal. After a few tries, I managed to kill them. Now you have all the time in the world to prepare. This map is frustrating though, in that the trees on the map don't represent the trees in the map, so finding a place where your archers aren't blocked by trees is tricky. I need clear lines of fire to get SP. If there's a tree in the way, your damage is halved and you don't get SP for the shot. Then I find it, the magic spot. My archers are primed, perfect. The enemy spawns in and charges. Hundreds of coked up demons with giant hitboxes pile on my men and my archers open fire. Since there is a clear line of fire and so many enemies, my archers get so much SP I actually can't heal fast enough. I spam heals pretty much constantly and archers absolutely crush them. And just like that, they're all dead. I take my time with the remaining enemies because they do cast AoE magic and I'm not taking any chances. I lure them in with scouts. The first time I actually used the game's intended strategy for scouts into Kendal so they don't cast anything and I mop them up. This game didn't intend for you to kill anything, so it gives you a bonus chunk of XP anyways, but you also get the XP from the kills. A lot. The mission doesn't even have a kill screen. Prove it. I was so hype after this, not only did I kill the enemies, but I killed them deathless. I fucking love this game. Mission 15. Funero. Oh my god, I'm exhausted just thinking about this. This mission is hard, but mostly because it is the grind. We team up with the Dark Legion here and work together to enter Enkablosa. The Dark Legion will drill a hole in the body with a bone dragon, and we will fly in a crew with a Battaloon. The Battaloon! We finally get to use the unit that has taunted us in the infantry. This guy is actually pretty sweet. It's like a flying battleship that launches consistent levels of mortar fire that does solid damage. Since it's a single entity as well, once it starts taking damage, you can usually get it out of the fight safely. This mission has an infinite source of enemies, so grind your way through until you get to the mid area. You can sort of cheese with your Battaloon to trigger the warp zone, but I forgot the warp zone was going all the way back here, and so I had to do a mad dash. Once you get in the zone, you are warped in the belly of the beast. This place is fucked. Evil as hell looking with some crazy Lovecraftian horror vibes. There are 4 organs in the corners of this map we need to destroy, all with a heart and it's constantly shooting lasers at us. You start in the water, so you need to get the fuck out of there fast. We know how much damage we take in water. This part is sort of easy, but can go tits up really quick. Pay attention to the enemy spawns. When you kill one of the tendril clusters, a spitter spawns with a random school of magic, which almost one-shots me on multiple occasions. My asshole was puckered this whole time. Once the 4 corners are clear, the heart spawns, and a bunch of tendrils as well. Simply snipe with your ranged. I kept Kendal at a safe distance. Once the last one goes down, boom. We did it. We beat Kingdom Under Fire, the forces of good, Deathless. No ifs, ands, or buts. No sappers, no scripts, nothing. Thank you so much for watching and liking the video, and for hanging out in the streams. This was a tough one to make, but I am so stoked I actually managed to pull it off. The Dark Legion campaigns actually play quite similarly, so I'll work on that video next, so stay tuned. And hang in there, guys. I know life is tough.